He stops, hand on door latch. Something is missing in two-room shack. Trust Stubby Pringle to know that. "Where's your tree?" he says. "Kid's got to have a Christmas tree." He sees the woman sink down on chair. He hears a sigh come from her. "I ain't had time to cut one," she says. "I reckon not. I'll get it for you. Won't take a minute. Then I got to be going." He strides out. He scoops up axe and strides off upslope where some small pines climb. He stretches tall and his legs lengthen and he towers huge among trees, swinging with 10-foot steps. He is Stubby Pringle, born an expert on Christmas trees, nursed on pine needles, weaned on pine cones, raised with an eye for size and shape and symmetry. There. A beauty. Perfect. Grown for this and nothing else. The axe blade slices keen and swift. Tree topples. He strides back with the tree on shoulder. He rips leather swings from his saddle and lashes two pieces of wood crosswise so tree can stand up straight again. Stubby Pringle strides into shack carrying tree. He sets it up, center in front room, stands straight, perky, proud, and pointed. "There you are, ma'am. Get your things out and start decorating. I got to be going." He stops in outer doorway. He hears a sigh behind him. "You ain't got no things. I was fearing to buy some, but sickness took the money." Stubby Pringle looks off the last low ridgetop hiding valley and schoolhouse. "Reckon I still got a bit of time. He'll be whooping it mighty late." He turns back, closing door. He sheds hat and gloves and bandanas and jacket. He moves about checking everything in the sparse front room. He asks for things, and the woman jumps to get those few things she has. He tells her what to do, she does. He does plenty himself. With this and with that magic, wonders arrive. He is Stubby Pringle, born to poverty and hard work, weaned on nothing, fed on less, raised to make do with least possible and make the most of that. Pinto beans strung on thread, brighten tree and firelight, and lantern light like strings of store-bought beads. Strips of one bandana, cut with shears from sewing box, bob and bows. Snippets of fleece from jacket, lying sprinkled over tree, glisten like fresh fall of snow. Miracles flow from strong, blunt fingers through bits of old paper bags and dabs of flour paste onto linked chains, and twist small streamers into two jaunty little hats and two smart little boats with sails. Gotta finish it right. From strong, blunt fingers comes five-pointed star, triple thickness to make stiff, twist a bit of old wire to hold upright. He fastens this to the topmost tip of the topmost bow. He wraps lone bandana left around throat and jams battered hat on head and shrugs into snow skimpy line jacket. "Right nice little tree," he says. "All you gotta do now is get out what you got for the kids and put it under. I really got to be going." He stops in doorway. He hears the sigh behind him. He knows without looking around the woman has slumped into a rocking old chair. "We ain't got nothing for him," she says. "Only now this tree, which I don't mean it isn't a fine grand tree. It's more'n we'd a had except for you." Stubby Pringle stands in open doorway, looking out into cold, clean, moonlit night. Somehow he knows without turning his head. Two ears are sliding down thin pinched cheeks. "You go on along," she says. "They're good uns. They know how it is. They ain't expecting a thing." Stubby Pringle stands in open doorway, looking out at last ridgetop that hides valley and schoolhouse. "All the more reason," he says soft to himself. "All the more reason something should be done. So it'll be there when they awake." He sighs too. "I'm a dong-bong-a-ding bastard, dang-bladed fool," he says, "but I reckon I still got a mite more time. Likely they'll be sashaying around till it's almost morning." Stubby Pringle strides in, leaving door open, strides back, closing door with heel behind him. In one hand he has a burlap bag wrapped around paper parcel. In the other hand he has a squarish chunk of good pine. Tosses bag parcel into fold A woman's apron. Unwrap it, says. There's the makings for a right cute dress for the girl. Needle and threader like you can whip it up in no time. I'll just whittle me out a little something for the boy. Moon is high and cold sky. Frosty clouds drift up there with it. Tiny flakes of snow float through upper air. Down below, by the two-room shack, droops a disgusted cow-pony roan, ground-tied, drooping like statue snow-crusted. It is accepting the inescapable destiny of its kind, which is to wait for its rider, to conserve deep-bottom dynamite energy, to be ready to race when the last margin of motion, when waiting is done. Inside the shack, fire and fireplace cheerily gobbles wood, good wood, stout wood, seasoned wood, warming two rooms well. Man lies on bed, turned on side, curled up some, snoring slow and steady. Woman sits in rocking chair, sewing. Her head nods slow and drowsy, and her eyelids sag weary, but her fingers fly, stitch, stitch, stitch. A dress has shaped under her hands, small and flounced with little puff sleeves, fine dress, fancy dress, dress for smiles and joy of living. She is sewing pink ribbon around collar and down front and into fluffy bow on back. On a stool nearby sits Stubby Pringle, a piece of good pine in one hand, knife in the other hand. Fine knife, splendid knife, all-around accomplished knife. Knife he always has with him, 7-bladed knife with 4 for cutting, from little to big, and corkscrew and can opener and screwdriver. Big cutting blade has done its work, little blade is in use now. He is Stubby Pringle, born with feel for knives in hand, weaned on emery wheel, fed on shavings, raised to whittle his way through the world. Tiny chips fly and shavings flutter. There in his hands, out of good pine wood, something is shaping. A horse. Yes, flop-eared, ewe-necked, cat-hipped horse. Flop-eared head is high on ewe-neck, stretched out, sniffing wind, snorting into distance. Cat hips are hunched forward, caught on crouch, for forward leap. It is a horse fit to carry a waist-high boy to the uttermost edge of eternity and back. Stubby Pringle carves swift and sure. Little cutting blade makes final little cutting snitches. Yes, tiny mottlings and markings make no mistaking. It is a strawberry roan. He closes knife and puts it in pocket. He looks up. Dress is finished in woman's lap, but woman's head is drooped down in exhaustion. She sits slumped deep in rocking chair, and she too snores slow and steady. Stubby Pringle stands up. He takes dress and puts it under tree. Fine dress, fancy dress. Dress waiting now for a small girl to wake up and wear it, with smiles and joy of living. He sets wooden horse beside it. Fine horse, proud horse, snorting into distance horse. Cat hips crouched, waiting now for a waist-high boy to wake and ride it around the world. Quietly he piles wood on fire and banks ashes around to hold it for morning. Quietly he puts on hat and wraps bandana around it and shrugs into skimpy lined jacket. He looks at old rocking chair and tired woman slumped in it. Strides to outer door and out, leave door open. Strides back, closing door with heel behind. He carries other burlap bag wrapped around box of candy. Fine chocolates, fancy chocolates with variegated interiors. Gently he lays on fine chocolates on this woman's lap. Gently he takes big old shawl from wall nail and lays it over her. He stands by a big old bed and looks down at snoring man. Poor devil. Ain't fair to forget him. He takes knife from pocket. Fine knife. 7-bladed knife. Lays this on blanket on bed. Picks up gloves and blows out lantern swift as sliding moon. He is gone. High, high up frosty clouds scuttle across the face of moon. Wind whips through topmost tips of tall pines. What is it that hurtles like hurricane far down there upslope of last low ridge, scattering drifts smashing through brush, snorting defiance at distance? It is flop-eared, ewe-necked, cat-hipped roan, iron-boned and dynamite field, ramming full gallop through the dark night. Firm in saddle is Stubby Pringle, spurs a jingle, toes a tingle, out on prowl, ready to howl, heading for the dance at the schoolhouse in the valley. He is 10 feet tall, great as a grizzly, and the roan is gigantic, with wings soaring upward into 30-foot leaps. They top out, and roan rears high, pawing stars out of sky, and drops down, cat hips hunched for fresh leap out and down. Hold it, Stubby. Hold hard on reins. Do you see what is happening on out there in the valley? Tiny lights that are schoolhouse windows are winking out. Tiny dark shapes moving about are horsemen riding off. Our wagons pulling away. Moon is drooping down the sky, haloed in frosty mist. Dark gray clouds dip and swoop around, sweep the horizon. Cold winds weave, rustling through ice-coated bushes and trees. What is that moving slow and lonesome up snow-covered mountainside? It is a flop-eared, ewe-nicked, cat-hipped roan. Just that. Nothing more. Small cow pony, worn and weary, taking its rider back to clammy bunk and cold lion cabin. Slumped in saddle is Stubby Pringle, head down, shoulders sagged. He is just another of far scattered, poorly paid, patched clothes, cown hands who inhabit these parts. Just that. And something more. He is the biggest thing there is in the world. He is a man who has given of himself, of what little he has, and is, to bring smiles and joy of living, to others along his way. He jogs along, slump sagged in saddle, thinking of none of this. He's thinking of dances undanced, of floorboards unstumped, of willing women left unwhirled. He jogs along, half asleep in saddle, and he is thinking now of bygone Christmas seasons, of a boy born to poverty and hard work, and make-do pouring and flicker and firelight over a ragged old Christmas picture book. And suddenly he hears something, the tinkle of sleigh bells. Sleigh bells? Yes, I'm telling this straight. He and Roan were weaving through thick clump brush. Winds were sighing high overhead, and up on the mountainside and lower down there were whipping mists of snow flurries all around him. He can see nothing in the mystic moving dimness, but he can hear the tinkle of sleigh bells, faint but clear, ghostly but unmistakable. He suddenly sees something. Moving off to the left, swift as wind, glimmers only through brush and mist and whirling snow, but unmistakable again. Antlered heads, high, frosty breath, streaming bodies. Bodies rushing swift and silent, floating in flash of movement past. Seeming to leap in air alone, needing no touch of ground beneath. Reindeer? Yes, reindeer, strong and silent and fleet out of some far-frozen northland marked on no map. Reindeer swooping down and leaping past and rising again and away, strong and effortless and fleeting. And with them, hard on their heels, almost lost in whirling snow mist of their passing, vague and formless, but there. Something big and bulky, with runners like sleigh and flash of white beard whipping in wind, and crack of long whip snapping. Startled Roan has seen something too. It stands rigid, head up, staring left and forward. Stubby Pringle, body a tinkle, stares too. Out of dark of night ahead, mingled with moan of wind, comes a long-drawn chuckle, deep, deep chuckle, jolly and cheery and full of smiles and joy of living. And with it long-drawn words. Well done, pardner. Stubby Pringle shakes his head. He brushes an icicle from his nose. I didn't have a single drink, he says. Only coffee, and can't count that. Reckon I'm getting soft in the head. But he is cowman through and through. Cowman through to the marrow. Can't ride on without stopping to check anything strange on his range. He swings down and leads off to the left. He fumbles in jacket pocket and finds a match. Strikes it. Holds it cupped and bends over. There they are. Unmistakable. Reindeer tracks. Stubby Pringle stretches up tall. Stubby Pringle swings in the saddle. Roan needs no slap of spurs to unleash strength and upward surge. Up, up, up steep mountainside. It knows. There in saddle once more is Stubby Pringle, moonstruck maverick of the XXX, all around hard-proved, hard-honed cowhand. 10 feet tall, needing horse gigantic, with wings, iron bone, dynamite